Hey, man, it is Dukes and Bell. It's behind the curtain, and what a weekend it was. Mike's here, Big O, obviously Day, and we are live from Twin Peaks and Kennesaw today, coming off the national championship game, guys. So if you get a chance, come on out and join us. We'll be out there until 6. Guys, we have a head coach. I said going into the weekend, Mike, I thought they might wait on this, but obviously they felt very strong about Stefanski. The introductory press conference, by the way, won't be until next week. We will be there, but more on that coming up as we move forward. Guys, let's react because we talked on Friday a lot about Kevin Stefanski when we were at down there at College Park at the Gateway Center Arena, and then it plays out this way. Mike, your initial thoughts and reaction as this came down over the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't my first choice. He was one of my choices. I know you and I talked about it. You were a little bit higher on Stefanski, and we'll find out next week with Matt Ryan. But clearly, I think they were looking for experience. They weren't going to get somebody in who had never been a head coach, never put a staff together, and all of that entails. I mean, there's me, no risk it, no biscuit. Stefanski is a 2-time coach of the year. We all know that. He's definitely a guy that runs an offense that should be complementary to what we've got with the pieces here. But it's not the most compelling hire, if I'm honest, And I think a lot of fans are lukewarm to it. Now, I today was talking about people going back and they're kind of looking at the Shedeur Sanders thing, like somehow Stefanski, sabotaged. First of all, I don't give a crap what happens to Shedeur Sanders. He's not my quarterback. But I posted a piece of video where Shedeur said he was hard, tough, but he learned from him. So I hope that doesn't become a thing. But it's not my number one choice, Carl. We'll see where this goes. Now, we've had retreads or guys get a second opportunity and have great success in this league, from Bill Belichick to Andy Reid. But Stefanski is going to be a hard sell to some of the fan base.
Yeah, Day, where you at on this, man?
To you guys' point, when I just posted like, hey, we got a new head coach, Stefanski it is on some of my social feeds, to Mike's point, man, a lot of lukewarmness about this hire from a lot of people. But, I understand what the resume looks like from a wins and losses standpoint. I understand people's hesitancy to accept Stefanski based on that, but I believe this is a situation where you got to look a little deeper in the layers. Again, first year there, he leads them to their first playoff win in 24 years. He's a 2-time coach of the year while he's there. So there are some positive things to take away. And if we're honest, he was you guys have said this time and time again, he was in one of the most jacked up systems when it comes to front office personnel, draft picks, and how they handle things. So, it was one of those things where, man, he made do with what he could. So I think you got to look a little beyond the surface of the record with this. I mean, he's our coach now, guys. Like at this point, we just got to see what kind of staff he puts together offensively. Obviously, it's the Falcons announced they're going to retain Jeff Olbrook. So we know Stefanski's focus is going to be on the offensive side of the ball. Let's see what he does over there, and then we just have to see where things go. But I am interested to see what he is thinking about our quarterback situation.
Oh, it looks like you don't like this. You're all fidgety over there. You don't like this, do you?
No, it's not that. I spent the whole weekend just like they did. I put a post up, and my post was like, "Hey, man, none of the hires this offseason are going to be sexy or we're going to fit everything you wanted. Kubiak is going to be a first-time coach. Flores is going to be a guy coming from a defensive background. Like Sala was going to be a fired head coach who was a defensive background. So you're either going to get a guy who was straight off the headset as a head coach, or you're going to do the thing that you've done the last 3 times with head coaches here, and you've gotten somebody fresh off the coordinator train. Those 3 times haven't worked. So I posted that, and the responses I got about the record, about not being able to develop a quarterback, about Shedeur, like it was insane. Like I get he's got 8 wins over the last 2 years, but do you know that he has more wins the time he was in Cleveland than the Falcons do at that exact same time? Do you know that before these last 2 seasons in Cleveland, he was 37-30 before the wheels fell off? He took a Joe Flacco-led Cleveland team in a 5-game span and got them to the playoffs. And Flacco looked like the most competent quarterback in the NFL at that time. So don't tell me about P.J. Walker couldn't develop him. Don't tell me he couldn't develop Case Keenum. Don't tell me he couldn't develop Jeff Driscoll, because those guys are bums. The first year he had Baker Mayfield as a rookie, they made the playoffs. I get to the Deshaun thing happened after that, but he's on record for saying that he wanted that move vetted more. and then his owner was full go into it, and his GM was full go into it. So at that point, as the head coach, you ain't got a choice but to get behind them or get fired. And he didn't want to get fired. So at that point, it was like, let me do what I can to make sure that this Deshaun thing works here. And it didn't. So the sense of the organization are on him a whole lot. And I get to, I was on the Reddit this weekend. I learned that he's not the Browns had special teams gaffes this last half of the year that cost some things. There were pre-snap penalties that were bad. Some guys question the culture because he is a player's coach, and we just had that too. But the most telling thing that Cleveland fans said was that his time here was over, but watch him go to Atlanta and win 12 games his first season and a division title. Watch that happen.
It's very possible. And by the way, it's behind the curtain, guys. We are Dukes and Bell, and Day Day's our executive producer. For those who are new to this, we're live on Twitch and YouTube and all the places where you can see our social media. Obviously, Big O is our engineer. And here's the deal. For me, guys, first, let me speak to black folks. Stop making the correlation that we have this affinity for Deion Sanders, which we absolutely love in Atlanta, and somehow this guy screwed his son, and therefore you don't like him. I've heard this all weekend. Let's stop, okay? We have to give Kevin Stefanski the same grace that we've given all these coaches to come in here and prove it. And Mike, if he doesn't, he'll be gone in 2 years. But let's stop with this nonsense about, and I'm pointing out black folks because this is what I've heard. Well, he screwed Shedeur, and we don't like him. We don't know that, and we don't know.
How can this city that is rooted in so much black history do that?
Hold on. We don't know the interworkings of what was going on. So I just want to address that for a second, because that is part of this correlation. You already have this dislike because you feel like he screwed Shedeur. Secondly, let me say this. Mike and I on this show were screaming about Shedeur being overlooked and not being picked higher than he should have. We also know he tried to play a part in that, and his father did. So look, their lot in life in that past draft, it played out the way it did. He's got a chance to prove it now, and I hope he is the quarterback with the Browns or somewhere else. We love the kid. I love his makeup. But we can't make that correlation about, I don't like him because he did that. Now, with that said, as far as this hire, guys, did Matt Ryan rush this? Mike, do you think he rushed this?
Well, I think there apparently is a market for Stefanski, which maybe isn't appreciated here in Atlanta, certainly not appreciated by me, because at the end of the day, to be just winning 8 games, regardless of how bad a franchise is, it's still not compelling a hire. But I think maybe Matt was worried that, Tennessee's looking for some stability. There's some other teams that might be looking. And again, this market just keeps expanding because now Buffalo's in the mix. Yep. So, and I really wanted Kubiak. Maybe they didn't want to wait. They waited for Dan Quinn back in 15, the 15-16, 2014-15 season. Dan Quinn was a DC for the Seattle Seahawks going all the way to the Super Bowl. So I don't know if they felt Kubiak was already locked in somewhere else. He wouldn't come to Atlanta, or Matt specifically wanted a coach with experience. That's why they made a play initially for Harbaugh and now him. I saw you and I both were commenting with Matthew Bergeron. He was upset that Dwayne Ledford, our O-line coach, apparently is not going to be retained by this regime. So there's always going to be some hard feelings with some of that. But I thought, offensive line is one of our least of our issues. I think you could argue we could get better at some positions like center, but we'll see. I mean, anytime there's a change, there's always going to be hurt feelings. I had one guy come up to me, yeah, man, they played hard for Raheem those last 4 games. Who freaking cares? Who effing cares?
Hard for him too, yeah.
So what happened in the 5 games when they were blowing everything and they weren't tackling and running hard? I mean, what happened there? So, I mean, get that as sailed. So, again, the agenda about race with this, I got no part. Please. I mean, it is what it is. I think you're barking up the wrong tree. But Stefanski is still going to be a hard sell just based on the last 2 years in Cleveland. Yeah. But I think other teams wanted experience, and that's why I think Matt maybe decided, Carl, they had to move.
Yeah, no, look, it's fair, Mike. And Dede, I'm going to let you speak here real quick. But I'll say this. If you had an issue with Raheem when he came in, based solely on the fact that he had a losing record, then you're going to have a problem with Kevin Stefanski coming in under those same circumstances. Doesn't matter what he looks like, white, black, green, or yellow. So if you're solely basing that on he's a loser, and I don't like him because he's a loser, you felt that way about Raheem, you should feel the same way about Stefanski. But I'm still going to give the dude a chance. Go ahead, Dede. What do you want to add?
No, just real quick. Falcons just announced they did hire Bill Callahan as the offensive line coach.
Okay. Super
well-respected
experience. Yes, super experience. And look, to Mike's point about Ledford, he was here for a long time. He saw these guys that we drafted come in, and he helped. Look, Chris Lindstrom's not Chris Lindstrom without his development. So, you know, as far as our all-pro kinds of players on that offensive line, it's Ledford who helped that. But can Callahan, you know, be more of an influence? And by the way, this outside zone stuff, that's Bill Callahan. That's
right.
We should thrive in this with him as our O-line coach. We'll see what happens. All right, what else did you want to add, Day or O?
No, I was going to say. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
My bad. Well, I was just going to say too. I think again, as I mentioned earlier, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how or what Stefanski thinks about our quarterback situation, like what his mindset is going into it. If for some reason, somehow, because again, Kirk Cousins did renegotiate his contract. As far as it looks like he may be out, does Kevin Stefanski come in and talk to him and say, look, I need you? Because Kirk Cousins' most successful years in Minnesota were under Kevin Stefanski when he was his QB coach and his OC. So I'm very, like I said, that's kind of what I want to hear, you know, whenever he does, you know, after he has his press conference to introduce him as a head coach. Where's his head at on our QB situation? Because the reality of it is, I don't care what you say. I don't care if they say Michael Penix can come out there and run when training camp opens. He's not going to be running at Michael Penix level that when he went down. That's the reality of it.
Yeah. Mike, and I know you want to add something. Just to his point, if they do want Cousins back, you're cool with it, right?
I mean, Orin, jump in. I just felt it was always a small percentage. A lot of our guys, including our capologist we had on the show, basically said, was it who's that? Darren Coyle?
Corey.
Corey, I should say. And he was basically saying that, yeah, this is a move to get to basically stretch out the hit so you still have some cap space. And he thinks Kirk Cousins is gone. There is still a slim, tiny chance he could come back, but we'll see. And again, we don't know if Penix is ahead of schedule. That might be good news. Otherwise, you know, we got to go get a stopgap. You know, and that's that rogues gallery of Jacoby Brissett or, you know, plug in, you know, Gardner Minshew type for a couple of weeks, which is going to excite no one. But there's no sense in having Cousins here if it's going to cost us a fortune.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, I know you got stuff on your mind. Go for it, bro.
No, to your point about the Shedeur stuff, I don't care about vibes, man. I care about wins. And the quickest way for everybody to get off those vibe feelings and do a little neurological, they do a Men in Black. Stefanski goes in there and wins. Don't nobody care about Shedeur. Don't nobody care about Cleveland. It becomes about right here.
That's right.
To Dave's point about Callahan, there was a noticeable difference from the Cleveland fans when Callahan left here on how this offensive line sort of eroded. So having Callahan here is a great thing. To your point about Cousins, I think I saw a number where it was 39.5% of snaps that quarterbacks ran for Stefanski last year, they were run under center. So whoever's going to be here next year is going to have to learn how to play under center because that's what that offense calls for. That being said, though, like, I get people, like, if it's about the record, it's about the record. But I think people are missing the context of why the record was what it was. And I think when you look at the record of the last 2 years, you put everything else aside that was done in Cleveland to him to kind of prevent him from having success. Not to mention you overlook the things that he did do in Cleveland, which I think Cleveland has like a handful of playoff appearances in the past 20 years. He's got 2 of them, and he did that in 5 years. Yeah. And you can't say that about hardly any other coach in Cleveland. So there was an effort for him to turn things around, and it didn't work in Cleveland. That doesn't discredit him for being a good coach. We're going to find out how good of a coach he is here, but it's the sins of before. I think sometimes they shouldn't have to overshadow and kind of put the stink on a guy just because of that. And about your point too about was he hired too early? Look, he was desired, and I think there was a reason that the first 2 head coach hires this cycle were guys who were just head coaches the year before, because those teams wanted to get that guy in who has experience because they feel like that's the next step. That's what they need to get to the next level. So with Harbaugh and Stefanski being the first off the board, I think that was very telling about the mindset of those 2 teams and to getting their guy.
Yeah, man, we got a lot to talk about today. Hawks remain terrible. This Indiana story that played out last night in front of us, absolutely incredible. Everybody wants to know who the next Indiana is going to be. I don't know if there will be, But I know this, Georgia's going to be good next year. Texas is going to be good next year. Notre Dame's going to be good next year. Ohio State's going to be good next year. Lane Kiffin's got a quarterback at LSU. They should be good next year. Like, I don't know what the next Indiana is, but Mike, this college football scene is going to be nuts.
Well, Georgia will not be Indiana as far as the makeup of the team. They did go in the portal this year for 8 guys, but they are basically doing it kind of the old – whatever the old-fashioned way is in 2026. It's guys, yes, thank you, Orin. It's the guys basically with their class coming to fruition and having upperclassmen augmented with a couple of those pieces. But if it doesn't work, that's now 4 years that we don't have an SEC team winning a national championship. But as you said, LSU is going to have something to say about that, as will the others.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We'll get into all of that because it was pretty cool last night. Look, I like Cinderellas. I don't like them all the time. But I was hoping they would win that game last night. I didn't have a dog in the fight. I was just kind of like, finish this, and then Carson Beck had a chance to spoil their dreams, and he blew it. So we'll talk about all of that coming off a crazy weekend, guys, and we will talk to you on the phones as well. Plenty of your phone calls today.
Kennesaw, right? Twin Peaks, Kennesaw today.
Correct. You like this Stefanski move? You don't? Yeah. Why? And all of that and much more. Coming up at 2 o'clock today on 92.9 The Game. We'll talk to you then.